W420radionetwork.com. Want to find out if cannabis can help your medical condition? It's time to hear from our cannabis doctor on call.
Well, California may be growing the best cannabis in the world, but the rest of the world is ahead of even the state of California and much of the USA in its rules, regulations, and access to the wonderful herb. And we're here with Alex Rogers, the CEO and founder of the International Cannabis Business Conference. And you've had conferences in San Francisco, all around the U.S., Canada, Germany, Spain, Switzerland. Why are we so behind the rest of the world, Alex?
Oh, man, that is such a good question. And it's kind of tragic. I think it all started off with Cali, like when Colorado legalized first. You know, we were hurt in California. We were like, dang, that should be us. And we had always had de facto legalization in California, you know, under medical auspices. Very robust, very free, very awesome. Some people look to those times of yesteryear, look back to yesteryear quite fondly. California clearly had the biggest, best black market for cannabis of all time. And unfortunately, those were golden years actually for some of us, but people were still getting busted. So I look at things from a patient perspective and a user's perspective. So if I can get better weed for a better price and not go to jail for it, that's super important. So I'm still happy things are the way they are. However, I wish that certain things could have been different in terms of getting California out of the black market and making things flow a little bit better. I honestly think that all the bureaucracy in the California government is one of the biggest reasons this hasn't really come to fruition like a lot of people had hoped or imagined. And I just think that our state is bogged down in savage bureaucracy. And I think that cannabis is what's happened with cannabis or what's not happened, if you will, is indicative of that.
Well, with federal legalization, you know, on the horizon in some people's views, will that be spurred by Canada going, you know, legalized weed? In Portugal and other European countries, medical marijuana legal in Germany. Is that going to be an impetus? Because it's one would imagine that financial influences are going to play a big role in this. Or as Bob Dylan once said, money don't talk, it swears.
Yeah, well, money's been the great motivator. I mean, when the recession happened, all of us activists realized or a lot of activists realized, oh, this is our fissure. This is our opening to now push legalization, not for humanitarian, libertarian reasons, but for reasons of economic reasons. And so that always pushed it. That's why we have legalization now, because of the recession. I firmly believe that. However, when it comes to the analogy of America federally doing the same because other people around them are doing it, you know, there's two sides of the money here. There's the money made that because it's illegal, and then there's the money that's going to be made when it becomes legal. And I think that pendulum is starting to shift. That fulcrum is starting to be in the balance is becoming even. Maybe it'll tip to the other side here. When that does, we'll probably federally legalize. However, I don't really think that America is influenced on Canada legalizing or Portugal or any country. I don't think we really give a I think we have other things. For example, in Europe, everyone's like, oh, we can't legalize and all the UN treaty stuff. In Europe, you talk to people, they're all talking about the UN treaty. You don't hear one person in America talking about one UN treaty almost.
The fact that 80% of California's $3 billion cannabis market in 2019 was black market.
Yeah.
Wouldn't one imagine that if we had a Safe Banking Act, if we had national legalization, if we had interstate transfer of cannabis, that you'd make a major dent in that, in addition to bringing the taxes down, the cultivation, the excise taxes, and the like?
Yeah, I mean, of course, the taxes are crazy, but I'm of the ilk that once it becomes nationally legal and California can export their product, I really think that that's the saving grace. When Cali can export it not only to other places in America, but other places in the world. The branding is there. Everybody knows about the Emerald Triangle. You know, everyone knows about the breeders out in this area, what's been going on for 40 years now. And We're famous for it. And so I have no real hope that the black market will be mitigated in any way, shape, or form unless interstate commerce and international cannabis commerce is allowed.
Yeah, one would think that would be the number one impetus to it. If you could reduce the black market, you could increase the consumption and sale of legal weed, which would increase your revenues. Well, it's a win-win.
That is a no-brainer. And, in terms of tax strategies, if we want to go there, whether you're conservative or liberal or whatever, there's always a sweet spot to tax something. We call it equilibrium, right? So it's going to sell you the most weed and it's going to generate the most revenue. Right now, that's punitive, right? And so it has to lower. And when it does lower, the state's going to generate more revenue. Ain't that something else? So it's counterintuitive to some, but to any person that studies basic economy, it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, it's a classic win-win. All right, what about the regulation, not the regulation, the testing? California has the most stringent testing, as I understand it, of any in the industry. How about in Europe? In other nations around the world, do you know the product you're getting is as good as in terms of
It's not as good in Europe. Like Germany has medical marijuana. It has to be radiated, for Christ's sake. So all the European medicine is under GMP practices and has to be just like almost any pharmacopoeia substance has to be radiated. The medical weed in Europe is just, so they actually do test it, and they radiate it to kill whatever, I don't know. I think there's always the devil's in the details, right? So they test it, but then we just saw the scandal with some weed coming in from Canada into Europe that wasn't tested properly and had said it had been, and it had come in under those auspices when that actually wasn't the case. So testing cannabis, it's a cumbersome thing. It's problematic. I actually don't have a solution on that. But Europe, they do test it. All medical marijuana in Germany is sold through pharmacies. Mm-hmm. So now you're having these pharmacies in Germany that are actually becoming like de facto dispensaries. Right. It's really cool. But they have to treat that cannabis like any other pharmacopoeia. And they also have to mortar and pestle it, which adds cost. So they're actually dealing with a lot of the same we are.
Ironically, they're radiating the weed, but they're not allowing GMOs. So in one sense, they've been hyper-vigilant to keep foods clean. And
So Europe is a funny mix of conservatism and liberalism. We always think Europe's very progressive and liberal, and in one way they are. But they're also a 2,000-year-old society, or more, and within that tradition lies a certain conservatism also. So I lived in Europe for 8 years. I lived all over there. I spend 3 months a year in Europe now. And I understand the culture very well in many different countries. And it is a fascinating mix of being open-minded in one way and closed-minded in another. Mm-hmm. The liberal and conservatism that we know in America isn't a direct analog to how it's defined in Europe.
Yeah, now, sun-grown, Humboldt County, legacy growers, the best of the best, boutique stuff. That's not the case in Europe. This is mostly indoor, correct?
That's right. I will take Humboldt County over anything I get in Europe, except for we get some good hash in Europe. We get some good Moroccan hash. Yes, I.
Thanks, man.
Yes, I. And my boy just brought me a smoothie. Now I'm good to go. Like the Tabizla, the King Hassan, the 00, all those nice creamy Moroccan hashes. That's what I smoke when I'm in Europe. The outdoor hash. But yeah, otherwise, it's all indoor. It's all chemmed out. That being said, you do have some type of organics. You can get some organic weed, but it's like your local home grow guy. Your buddy,
So again, I would imagine if it was an opportunity for California's best cannabis to be sold worldwide, it could be an absolute boon. I mean, if it's $3 billion sold in the state and it doesn't cross state line, Look at the potential worldwide.
I'm telling you, people don't know. This is the crux to me. This is the crux. And ain't nothing gonna happen in California. I mean, you're gonna do what you're gonna do, right? But if it really wants to be something grandiose and special and bombastic, and really just keep that legacy, make that legacy go worldwide, import export. And look, everyone else is doing it to Europe now. Everyone's trying to get their weed to Europe right now, right? When Cali can get their weed to Europe, it's done. People will choose the California weed over the other stuff. So I can't stress this enough how important it is that this policy changes. I think it's more important than banking or tax regulation, actually. Obviously the two very well could correlate or go hand in hand. Mm-hmm. But people don't know how important it is. There is a solution. There's an easy, quick solution, and that's it.
Yeah, so meanwhile, with so many businesses going out of business, if you could hang in there and be a little patient,
that's right.
Maybe there is a pot of great gold at the end of the rainbow.
Yeah, there is the pot. Shit's being weeded out, no pun intended, but it truly is it's a great point. You got to hang in there, and that's kind of business in general. Is who are the entrepreneurs that are going to make it? It's not necessarily the smartest. It's the hardest working and the most resilient people.
Alex, you've been great. The CEO and founder of the International Cannabis Business Conference. He's worldwide. He's the man, Alex Rogers, with Rich Walcoff on the W420 Radio Network.
W420radionetwork.com.